Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'll give it just a couple seconds here for everybody to get into Zoom space this afternoon. You can see this number ticking up as everybody's popping in here. All right, well, as everybody's getting settled in this virtual space, I should introduce myself. My name is Marie Burry-Lowe. I'm one of the Associate Directors of Admission here at Chapman. I've been here in the admission office for the last 6 or 7 years. So really happy to be joining you this afternoon and getting you some information in terms of next steps on the undeclared process and how that major selection will go. And this afternoon, we have a couple of things planned for you. So I have a little info that I'll share, and then one of my colleagues from the academic advising office will also share some insight from their department too, since they'll really be the hub and go-to place once you're a Chapman student in the fall semester. And then we will have some students on with us too that are current Chapman students that can really provide their perspective on what it's been like for them to go through this process and come into the university undeclared too. So before we get started, I'm going to have my other panelists introduce themselves. Dina, I'll go to you, and then to Steele. And then we will have one other student that's joining us in just a little bit too. So I'll have her introduce herself later. Dina, I'll pass to you.
Thanks, Marie. Hi, everybody. My name is Dina Bartoloni-Mai. I'm the Assistant Director of the Academic Advising Center. I want to congratulate all of you on being admitted to Chapman. We're excited to have everybody join us in the fall. And I'm excited to be here with you today to teach you a little bit more about our undeclared student services that we have on campus.
Hi guys, I'm Steele. So I'm currently a junior here at Chapman. I did come in undeclared, but I am now studying global communication and political science. I cannot advocate for coming in undeclared enough. I think it's an awesome opportunity, so I'm excited to talk to you guys about it. And yeah, congratulations on your admission.
That's so true. I should say that first. Big congratulations. We are all really so excited, and I'm definitely a big advocate for our undeclared students, both in our office and just kind of generally in this world and using college as a time of exploration. So I'm excited to be kind of coming into this space with all of you. So with that being said, I want to talk a little bit about the admission process, how everything went for us, what it looks like in terms of where our students are coming in at with the different schools and colleges. So over the last 6 or so months, our admission team has been really so hard at work and reviewing each of your applications and going through this really big task of deciding who's a great academic and social fit and well prepared to be at Chapman. And so we're so excited that you're part of that. This year, if you haven't attended an admission information session quite yet, you might not have heard, but this year we did hit that 15,000 student kind of benchmark. It's been a really kind of big banner year for us in the admission office. We've never had that many first-year student applicants applying directly from high school before, so we're very excited about that piece. In terms of average GPA and everything on here, you all are amongst our most competitive class that's been admitted to the university. And I feel like I sound like a broken record because I say that year after year, but you all are continuing to just impress us each and every year as we go through this. On the left-hand side of your screen there, you'll really see that the undeclared student group is making up quite a big chunk. And so when you start to divide this across all of the different schools and colleges and students that are coming into different areas, it's great to see where students are coming in. You're going to end up in one of these areas undoubtedly, right? But knowing that undeclared students are coming in at such a big percentage of our population, it's great to know that you're not alone in this process. You have so much support amongst your fellow classmates. You have so much support from our academic advising office, but also so many other resources that are available to you on our campus too. And so that's obviously important to really shed light on today as well. as you're thinking about what comes next and the resources that you will have, the Office of Admission is really going to be your go-to group of people. And so you have your admission counselor's information on your student application portal that you can always log into. So if you're still not sure who that admission counselor is, that information and our contact information and a little circle picture of our faces are there for you to reference too. So we'll be your go-to people as you're navigating through really the summer months until you're here in the fall. And then once you're here in the fall, the academic advisors will then start to be that core group of resources that you'll have here on our campus. Of course, you have other resources too outside of our departments. Now, students don't often think about this and like initially, but you can have these kinds of conversations with your professors. You're in classes with them and they're teaching a wide variety of different subjects to you. Talk to them about what they're doing. Talk to them about maybe this research project that they're working on or their own background and how they found their own path. I know from other panels that I've done similar to this, and in the fall semester, we often have a professor on that has taught at in our first year foundational course, which all first year students take. And so she is always having these kinds of conversations. That's part of their job, right? And so it's really good to understand that you can go to them. On top of that, of course, you have our career and professional development office, and they have a variety of different things that you can do in terms of like skills assessments and a variety of different things there that can help you kind of navigate and figure out what that path might be and what aligns best with your skills. Dina will talk in a few minutes too about some different on-campus events and what this kind of looks like in terms of the academic advising resource. But Steele, later, I think you can really give that perspective of talking with other students and having heard from their own experiences in the classes that they're taking and how you connect with your friends just generally, and then how that helps you really build. Oh, I didn't know that that class was going to cover this, and oh, I didn't know this. And so it starts to help you really put those pieces of the puzzle together. So Dina, I'm going to pass to you as we talk a little bit more in terms of academic advising and what that means for all of our undeclared students.
Awesome. Thanks, Marie. Yeah. So as you mentioned, we love working with undeclared students. We really feel like it's a great way for students to come in. You have all the options in front of you. And as you see on the screen, you've really decided that you want to explore your opportunities. You're going to take that time to do that. You're going to be conscious about doing that. And so it's a really important experience. It's a unique experience to have here on campus, and definitely can't be recommended enough if you're not sure, what area you want to go into. So a couple things. One thing is you can see here nationwide, approximately 20% of college students enter as undeclared. But I think what's almost more important sometimes to talk to students about is the next information. About 80% of students in the US change their major at least once. So in the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit more about different types of students, but just know that, college is that time of you're learning about different subjects and you maybe you've never even heard about. So it's a great time for students to explore. And a lot of times students come in with one major, but then change to another. I mean, we hear students changing like 6 times sometimes. It just kind of depends, And so know that it's a great idea to come in wanting to explore. So you're taking their time to choose that major. You can see 80% of new first years also aren't sure about their major, right? Because again, you've never been in college before, you haven't taken classes in that particular discipline. So, it's a good thing to come in undeclared. Usually every year we have in between 20 to 25, 200 to 250 undeclared first years that come in each year that we work with. You saw on the pie chart that Marie was showing. So it's a good chunk of the incoming class every year. So we like to say that the 3 main types of students, again, there's decided and satisfied. There are going to be students who have always wanted to do something for their entire life. They come to college, they get that, major, they're studying that thing, and they like their major. They take the classes and they will continue with it. There's a large group in the middle though that we call decided and not sure. So they might have, applied as a certain major, but they've never taken a class in that area. Or they think they might like it, or they've never really heard about another major. So those are what we call decided or not sure. There's a large chunk of those students. And believe me when I say you'll get to your sophomore year and you'll hear a lot of your friends saying they're changing their major, that sort of thing, because that happens a lot. And then there's the group like yourselves, undecided. So coming in knowing, I'm not 100% sure what I want to study. I might have some thoughts about things I'm interested in, but I want to take this time to explore and really make a conscious decision before I decide on a major. So things when you think about choosing a major, it's not just about, okay, what are the courses? You want to look at, first of all, what are your particular interests and strengths? And what's really nice about that, and you'll see too, we also want you to look at careers, but it's not all career focused. And that's something to kind of keep in mind as well. But our career and professional development office can help you look at strengths and interests. For example, they have some tests you can take if that's something you're interested in to help you narrow down what are my strengths, like a strengths inventory, basically. We also want you to look at what majors we do have on campus. We have a lot of different schools, as well as careers that are associated with them. Now, one thing that's so great about this, this time really, is that a lot of times, major does not equal career. In most instances, there's a lot of careers out there where there's not an undergraduate major, or there's a lot of different majors that could lead to that career. So it's something to also keep in mind when you're looking at different areas to study. And of course, just getting to know yourself too, being in, on campus, being away from home maybe for the first time, being in college classes, you really get to know yourself and mature. And all those things come together to declare that major. So students do have until the time they reach 60 credits, which is usually the end of their sophomore year, beginning of junior year, to declare that major. So you have a lot of time. Granted, we want you to not think about it until then. You need to start thinking and exploring, but you do have some time, so you can take that time for yourself to think about everything. So we offer over 60 majors here at Chapman. They are divided into 9 different colleges that you see here on the screen. So every college is going to be a little different. Majors range in credits as well, which we'll talk about in just a second. So you have a lot of different options here at Chapman. So as I mentioned, majors range anywhere from 30 credits all the way up to 78 credits, which is a really large major. So knowing that students need 120 at Chapman to graduate, you can guess, some of those majors, if they're closer to 30 or maybe 42 credits, that's where you hear people, they may decide to double major or do a major and a couple minors, something to that effect, versus students that have one of those larger credit majors. Maybe they're in a BFA program or something like that. When they have a 78 credit major, they usually are looking at maybe just doing a minor if they're interested, because it's a lot. So, that combination of classes really just depends on what the student wants to do. What's really nice here at Chapman, you can share classes between your major and GE, up to 9 credits or 3 classes. That's really great too when you're talking about exploring classes for either your major or your minor, because you can take a class that counts for general education no matter what. And then, if you decide to end up doing that major or minor, it can count for that as well. Some of our majors on campus do have what we call additional requirements. So you'll see here on the screen, we have them all listed. Some of the colleges do have, even once you get here, they do have a supplemental application. They might have a GPA cutoff. You might have to submit a portfolio or do an audition. You might have to take certain classes with certain grades. It all really depends on the major or minor of interest. We do have, once you're here on our academic advising website, we have a page dedicated to this to make sure everybody understands what's needed for all these different majors. And if there's a certain website that can give them more information on a given major, that sort of thing, we have all that as well, information ready to go. So how can I start exploring majors? So even as an incoming student, we have something we call the exploratory course list. So this is an example of one from a couple years ago on the one side of the screen. It's a really helpful tool that we update every year. So basically, for every major we have here on campus, what we try to do is identify a few classes that students can take to explore that major. If they happen to also be a general education course, we will identify that as well. We try to find ones that also count for general education, but sometimes they don't. And so that way students can see, okay, these are some introductory courses that I can think about taking to explore that major. So every major is represented on that sheet, and we give that out to first years during summer advising. So you're already probably thinking, well, what am I going to take in this first year if I don't know what my major is going to be? So what we usually recommend the undeclared students do in their first year is take a combination of both some general education classes as well as classes to explore the major and minor. As I mentioned, you do not want to put off not exploring anything until the end of your sophomore year, and then you have to make a rush decision. We don't want that at all. In addition, if you say maybe you have a couple majors in mind that you're kind of interested in, what we will have available in the summer, again, all of our summer advising begins June 1st, we will have something called recommended first year courses for every major on campus, where we've worked with the departments to come up with a list of what they recommend. So say, for example, you're interested in a couple different ones, you might take a class from one course list and one from another one, and then a few GEs type deals. So just know that our center is here for you year round. We are the home for undeclared students, so we're your main point people. During the summer, we will have advising with a variety of different summer advising available, again, beginning June 1st. We'll help you with registering for your fall classes. In the fall semester, we have workshops we have specifically targeted to first year students to help them get ready for spring registration and beyond. And then every undeclared student who comes in is assigned specifically one of the academic advisors in our office. So you'll have that information in your student portal, again, during the summer, and can reach out to them anytime. So our general education is a great way for you to learn more about our different disciplines on campus. One class, and Marie mentioned briefly, is our first year foundations course. It's known as FFC 100. Students are encouraged to take that in their first semester as much as possible. It has to be taken in the first year. That is a great way to connect with faculty. We hear, Dr. Osborne talk about it several times, usually, how she connects with her students and asks them about majors and minors they're interested in. So, take that class, think about what you might be interested in. So again, we talk about usually first years that are undeclared. We want them to take the FFC. We want them to take a few out of these GE classes you see here. We have our liberal arts and sciences focus area with all the different, what we call inquiries or categories, the global focus area. And then everybody at the end is going to be choosing either what we call a themed inquiry, minor, or second major. You don't need to worry about that right now, but it's basically learning about something outside of your major as well. So these are all kind of options for you to take in your first semester when you come in. And wanted to explain a little bit more about academic advising here at Chapman. So when you guys all come in at first, being undeclared, you're mainly going to be working with our office in the Academic Advising Center. So we help students, we're a professional staff, we're all full-time staff members. We help students with general education questions. You have a document that you can use to track your degree progress. It's called the program evaluation. We work with students using that. We talk to them about any kind of academic policy questions they may have. We make sure that they understand everything that makes up their degree, because here at Chapman, your degree is not just your major, it's your general education. You're going to choose, like I said, a minor or another outside area. You have other credits and policies, that you need to hit to complete your full degree. So we make sure students understand that fully. In addition, students have what we call a program advisor. So once you do declare whatever minor or major that you want to go with, you have a specific major advisor known as a program advisor in that department. For majority of instances, that is a faculty member. They're going to talk to you more about the major, right? They're the experts in the major. That's their field of expertise. So they talk to students about major course requirements, if there are any track options or course planning, if there's any questions about course availability, or just learning about the major in general, including career options, research options, things like that. So over your time here at Chapman, we will have you be working with our office in the advising center, but we also want you to get to know program advisors on campus, especially as you're exploring your majors.
All right, thank you, Dina. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so I can see your faces a little bit better. All right, it's always hard to kind of toggle between. So at this point, I think the best things that we can really start to help with is getting you answers to questions that you have that are kind of burning, inside you right now, figuring out how you plan for these next steps. I hope what Dina and I have been able to provide thus far has already started to help with those next pieces too. But really, I think some of the most important part of today is hearing from our current students. Steele is on here now. I know one of our other students, Jalen, is hopping from one work assignment to the next. So she should be popping on here in the next 10 minutes or so. So you'll hear from her too. But Steele, I'm gonna pass to you. Do you wanna just tell us a little bit to get started in terms of your experience with being undeclared, how you found that major, and then for those of you that are currently attending, if you want to throw any questions into the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, then that way I can ask them or answer them myself or pass them to our panelists. So Steele, I'm going to turn to you.
Absolutely, I would love to talk about my undeclared journey. So I'm an out-of-state student. I'm originally from Richmond, Virginia, and so my college search was very much like, I want to go to Southern California. I kind of fell in love with Chapman. I loved the school, but I very much did not know what I wanted to do, and I didn't want to, commit to any sort of like specific career path or specific area of study. So I was like, I love this school. I don't know what I want to do with my life. So I'm just going to come in. I'm going to see what they have to offer, dip my toes in a bunch of different schools and kind of figure out what sticks. So I came in undeclared. And then my first semester, I just kind of took a bunch of general education classes. Kind of like Dina said, I took the general education classes. And then I also looked at some schools that I might be interested in and took some of their recommended classes too. And so one of those was the School of Communication. And so I took public speaking my first semester, and I loved my professor. I thought she was so cool. I loved the class. I loved what I was learning. And so that's kind of when I fell in love with that school specifically. And I also just really clicked well with the people who were in that class too. And I was like, oh, this is like a good community. This is a good group of people that I fit into well. And so that's kind of where I first kind of got that kind of, click in my head where I was like, maybe the School of Communication is for me. So I definitely would advocate for trying out those different classes, seeing where you fit in, what, is interesting to you, because maybe you think, and then you get to a class and you're like, oh, well, I don't want to learn about this. This is not interesting to me. And you really like one of your general education classes that you're taking. And so maybe you explore that school a little further. So I just am a very big advocate of, your first semester, try a bunch of diverse classes, in a bunch of different schools, figure out what really speaks to you. And then also probably the biggest part of what made me end up making my final decision, it was talking to other people. So I just talked to a lot of my friends who were in different majors, and then also the friends that I had met within my classes to kind of ask what it was like in their school, what it was like to study what they study. And again, that's kind of when I was like, oh, well, this is really the group of people that I feel like I align best with, and that I kind of can understand that and am interested in the same things they are. So that really, really helped. And then I know Maria talked about, talking to your professors too, and that is a huge, huge part of it. So I also tried to, go to their office hours, just kind of, get their vibe, figure out what it was like to be in that school, and what also the teaching style is very different between the schools too. So I think that was a big part of it for me too, is like kind of figuring out where I really like fit in, like teaching wise. And so that was a huge part of it for me. And then I talked to my academic advisor. I also went to like the program advisor of the schools I was interested in. So they're, they're very open to receiving you. So it's not like you have to worry about being like, oh, I don't have access to them until I'm in this school. They want to kind of help you on that journey. So you can go to them still, even as an undeclared student. And that was a huge part in, kind of me figuring out my journey. So that was long, I know, but that was kind of my whole like undeclared journey and my, general advice, but I'm happy to answer any other like specific questions or anything at all.
Yeah, that's great. And that's a good point too that you made, Steele, is that I don't think many students initially think like, oh, I can just go to this program advisors, pop in and like send them an email, send them a message ahead of time and get to know some of them, or get to know some other faculty that maybe your friends are in this other class, and like just kind of getting to observe and see what some of that looks like. It can be a really big kind of helpful piece as you're thinking about that next step too. One of our students asked a question, are there any undeclared students who don't get into the major that they want? And so the very short answer to that is yes, that can happen. But Dina, I'm going to turn to you to answer this, because each major some majors have some specific requirements. Some majors, it's a matter of filling out the right paperwork and going through the process online. So Dina, I'll pass to you.
Sure. Yeah. As Marie said, yes, the answer is yes, as you can imagine, because that's just the way things are. But it really depends on the major, to be completely honest with you. There are many majors on campus that don't require anything other than a signature from the department, and that's it. So those, obviously, there's no issue about getting in. Others are up to the student, right? So they have to have a minimum GPA in certain classes. So if the student doesn't get that, they're not going to get into that major. There are some of our schools that are very competitive. some of our programs. And so they require a high GPA and applications. And sometimes students still don't get in just because there's not enough spots. So it just really kind of, again, depends on the major that the student is interested in. So just something to kind of keep in mind. Even when you get here, all I can say is try your best to do well, because in some of those majors, if you do need to apply, having that higher GPA does help you, obviously. So.
And if you're thinking about some of this, if you're already kind of projecting ahead and thinking about what majors you might be interested in, these are things that you'll want to communicate to your academic advisors when you're having meetings with them early on, because they'll be able to help you navigate that process, give you these requirements really early. Or I know even for some business students, it's a matter of like, maybe you should probably take this higher level math class because that's going to really prepare you well, or you should hop into this econ class, right? So the academic advisors can really help you navigate that piece. If you're figuring this out over the summer months and it clicks and something changes, you can always message your admission counselor and our team and ask, can I declare my major right now? What does that look like? In some instances, that's yes, we can, make that change before you're even here. And in some instances, that's a no, you need to wait and apply to that specific program once you're at the university too. So that will vary a little bit, but if you're leaning in one direction, if something like come July, you're like all of a sudden you wake up one morning, you're like, this is what I want to try. Just send us a message and let us know. We do have another question. What is housing like for our undeclared students? So Steele, I'm going to pass to you on this one because obviously you just have that experience with being on campus and living there. We don't have that. So I'll pass to you.
Yes, absolutely. Honestly, housing is one of my favorite things to talk about just in general. But so we do house by major. So obviously you're thinking, well, if I don't know my major, where the heck am I going to live? So we house the undeclared students together typically, which again is just like, I love that because it gives you that kind of sense of you're with a whole cohort of people who are also trying to figure out their major. So you can kind of bounce off of each other, bounce off ideas and kind of see what classes are you taking? Do you like this school? Like, what has your experience been talking to people in other schools and stuff? Also, hi, Jalen. We also work at Startups together, Jalen and I. So I love that for us. But yeah, so in terms of housing, you will be living with other undeclared students. So in like my room, for example, we were all undeclared, and by the end of the year, I was in communication. I had a data analytics roommate and a business roommate. So we were all different places, but it was really cool because we got to like talk to each other about the classes we were taking, talk to each other about what we were interested in. And also because a lot of people are taking, similar GE classes or similar things like that, it gives you that still like nice, like cohort feeling of being like, I'm kind of all in this together and we're all trying to figure this out and we can help each other on that path. So that was really cool. And then also I know that like, it's like campus wide, but my RA really advocated for the Majors in Minutes program, which was a really, really fun event where you can basically like go into a room and there's a representative from each college and they can talk to you about all the different majors. And so you can kind of, it's like speed dating for majors is like what we like to say. So it's a really, really fun event. And it's just a great way to not only just meet people, but also figure out kind of what it's like from a student perspective in every single major. So definitely a good community of undeclared students, and they will help you out along your way and you're all kind of in it together, which is nice.
Thank you, Steele, for talking about that piece. Jalen, thanks for joining us. I know you're bopping between like work and managing other things, so I'm so glad you were able to hop on. Do you want to introduce yourself and just give us a little bit about what your undeclared journey has been and how you've kind of found that process for yourself?
Yeah, so hello everyone. Hi, my name is Jalen. I'm currently a sophomore student here at Chapman. I am currently in the process of declaring communications as my major and psych as my minor. Some of my campus involvements include, in addition to working in the Office of Admission and being a tour guide along with Steele here, I also work at Starbucks as well too with Steele as well. So we definitely have like the same jobs together. I also work in the Department of Residence Life in the first year experience as an RA. So that's also been a really awesome opportunity that I've gotten to have this year as well. And I'm a part of first generation college student as well. So that's just a little bit about my background and just like kind of my academic pursuits since I've been here at Chapman. In terms of my undeclared journey, I came in as a freshman undeclared. Technically right now I'm still undeclared. I haven't officially, but I know what classes or what major I'm actually declaring now. But the process that it was into figuring out what major I wanted was definitely a very unique one for me. I kind of came in with this mentality of just like, oh, okay, everyone has their life together. I don't. And it was definitely intimidating at first because, you talk to someone, and I always like to say this, they would ask me like, or I'd ask them, what's your major? And they'd be like, oh, like I'm a computer science engineer, with a minor in biology and a double major in broadcast journalism and film production. And I'm just like, I just don't know what I want for lunch. So, that was just, my experience. And I definitely felt very, kind of intimidated. And I would start comparing myself to other people. And that was kind of a personal journey that I had to outgrow in terms of really growing into my own journey, into my own major, into my own individuality, because everyone's story is different. Everyone's experience and journey is different in essence, really. So in terms of how I found my major, again, the GE program that they talked about earlier, I'm pretty sure is very tailored to helping you figure out what your interests are while also simultaneously fulfilling those GE requirements. So I was able to fulfill some of my GE requirements in the psych department for like some social inquiries and stuff. And then I ended up really liking it. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is something I could see myself doing. So I continued to take it. And then, that's how I became a psych minor. And then in terms of communications, as I got involved on campus and really found things that I was genuinely interested in, that is also kind of an avenue you can take to help find your major, just because, through finding things you're passionate about, you can really kind of align those with, okay, what I really want to study. So I think that's a really major way in figuring out like essentially what you would really want to do. When I got involved in the Office of Admission and working as a tour guide, I was like, you know what, I like to talk. So I was like, through that, I'm just like, like, is there like a major where I can do it? And I was like, oh my God, there's communications. And then I, continued to really look into that major and stuff. And then when I became an RA, like, I just realized like how much I really needed to know how to communicate with others effectively and, see different sides of, just different things of conflict. And that's something that I'm really, truly passionate about. So that's why communications was probably the best major for me. But I found my major, it didn't happen like overnight. It wasn't like, oh my God, I wake up one day and I decide I want to do this. I did have a switch of majors a couple times. I was a business major for about 10 minutes, political science for about 5. And then I, decided, I was like, maybe like I'll just try something else. Like academic advising has been through it with me. They already know. Dina could probably tell you. And but they've always been super supportive in terms of like, okay, like, well, what do you want to do now? Or what do you want to do? So, faculty is super phenomenal here on campus in terms of really helping you find those resources that you might need to help figure out your major. And then they're also just really good at encouraging you and, just like helping you stay, on a very straight path so that, you do end up graduating on time, because I do know that's like a concern a lot of people have. But yeah, they help you stay on track and everything. So that's me. So
awesome. So we have a couple other questions. One that I typed an answer into in the chat, but was a good question. When do you officially have to declare that major by? And that's really once you hit that 60 unit threshold that Dina was referencing earlier. And so I will make a note, because this came up actually in a different presentation a couple of days ago, is that if you're coming in with advanced placement classes, or if you're coming in with dual enrollment classes, IB curriculum, anything that is college level already, that's already starting to inch you a little bit closer to that 60 units. So for some students, that might happen a little bit faster than it does for others. So just something to be mindful of in the back of your head. And of course, you'll always, work with us and work with advising to help you navigate that. Dina, I'm going to have you answer Will's question. Is it difficult to declare a film or music major after coming in undeclared because of auditions and applications? Is it more competitive compared to students who entered these majors as a first-year student?
I don't know if competitive is the word, because I wouldn't be able to speak to that. I'm not involved in the admission process, I guess, for each of those departments. They actually have their own in-house admissions teams, if that makes sense. I can tell you for if you are interested in music, I might actually recommend, connecting with your admissions counselor and whether or not you want to try to connect with that department or at least ask questions ahead of time. It is one of our larger majors on campus. Students can audition after the fact, and especially if they are interested in doing a BA program versus a BM, that's something they can look at. Dodge, as you can guess, is a whole nother ball game. It is difficult to get into no matter if you come in as a first year or if you come in as, as an undeclared student and then apply. So Dodge does have a high GPA threshold needed. First years cannot apply until their spring of their first year to begin in their sophomore year. And lots of students apply on campus. So it is pretty competitive. I do not have any kind of numbers. They don't release those or anything like that. So I would not be able to tell you that piece. I don't know that it's any different, coming in, what those numbers look like as in terms of incoming first year versus one that's already here. So if that makes sense. But.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point too. I actually even asked the department for some of that somewhat recently. And it's hard to really quantify because every year is a little bit different in terms of how many spaces are available, because it's really based on how many students might be graduating from a program or how many students are switching out of a program. And so, so much of mostly in film or anything that I would kind of in my head qualify as like a talent-based program, so something that requires an audition or portfolio of some sort, does have space availability, kind of capacity pieces that come into play there too. So all things to be mindful of. Giovanna asked a good question. In your opinion, is it better to come in undeclared versus selecting a major? I'm going to pass to Steele and Jalen on this one because you've come into this process and navigated this and then figuring this out. But I would also love to hear Dina's perspective after too, because you're obviously working with students every day and kind of the switching of majors and what that looks like. So Steele or Jalen, whoever wants to hop on first.
Yeah, no, I could say, really, it's honestly like a personal choice in terms of like what you think looks better for you. In my case, it really worked out that I came in undeclared. Initially, I was totally against it. Like I wanted to have a major and just like, I was just like really adamant about that. Like I just want to have a selected major, but I think it's really important to kind of place yourself out of that mindset of like, I just want to have something, whether it's, something you're really interested in or not. I think it's more important to really choose something that you genuinely want to pursue opposed to just having a major just to have one and just to say that, I'm this type of a major instead of just saying you're undeclared. Because personally for me, that was something that I struggled with. Like I didn't like telling people I was undeclared. I was like super self-conscious about that because initially I felt like it seemed like I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't know what I was doing, and that's totally fine. And I think that's something that has become a lot more normalized in terms of not knowing what you're doing, because I mean there are people that are in selected majors who maybe one, don't like their major, or two, are looking to switch out and don't know what they're doing either. So don't really focus on that aspect of it. I think it's more so just if you're sold on a major and you think that, okay, I really want to be like a business major, that's it, I don't see myself doing anything else, then like by all means pursue that. I think if you're still kind of on the fence and you're just like, well, I'm interested in this, but I'm interested in that, see what your options are in terms of exploration with different GEs, because you have to take those anyway. So if you're going to take some GEs, maybe find a class that fulfills one of those requirements that you're semi interested in. There's different ways to go about it where you don't have to like make a black or white decision like undeclared or not. But if you're really in a place where it's just like, I have no idea what I want to do, I was the type of person that I was interested in everything. I'm like, oh, I could see myself doing this, but I could see myself doing that, I could do that. I was just, my head was everywhere. My head still is everywhere. So I feel like if you're in that boat, I would recommend coming in undeclared. But if you have more of a solid idea of just like, okay, I want to do this, I could see myself pursuing this type of career post-graduation, if you're like a little bit more adamant about that, then I would just go ahead and declare a major. But if not, no worries, because you can switch it. But yeah, that's what I would say, that's what I would advise. But let's see what Steele has to say.
Yeah, no, I would definitely echo pretty much everything you said. I think the biggest thing is that it is definitely a personal choice. For some people, they know exactly what they want to do. Declare your major, pursue it, and then you're good to go. But if you're not really sure, I wouldn't declare just because you feel pressure to like, have something and be able to say something. I would say let yourself be undeclared and kind of like get comfortable with that. Because I know, like Jalen said too, like it definitely is like a journey. You have to go, like you have to get comfortable with it. Because I definitely, when I first came here, was like, oh, I'm undeclared, and it'd be like I felt bad about it. But now I'm like, I'm so glad I came in undeclared. Because I know so many people who came in with a major just because they were like, oh, well, I have to pick something. And then they just wasted their time their first semester taking a bunch of courses that they can't even apply to their new major, or that they're never going to be interested in. So don't, pick a major just because you're like, let me pick something so that I can start taking classes in it. Because you have a lot of flexibility in your time here at Chapman. We make sure that you have enough like leeway where you can take some experimental courses. You're not going to fall behind if you like take your time picking what you want to do. And then it's better that way than you don't have like a bunch of extra courses that you can't really apply for any credit. So if you don't know, definitely you just come in undeclared. Don't feel bad about it at all. Honestly, you're doing a great thing. You're being curious. You're trying to like be smart about what you want to pick. So it's not a bad thing at all.
Dina, do you want to add anything since you work with these students so frequently? Is there anything from the advisor perspective that you want to add to that conversation?
Yeah, I mean, some of the, I agree with both of them that obviously if you're not sure, explore. But the one area that's a little bit different, I would say, might be the sciences. If you are on the fence about maybe you want to be, say, like a health science major or biology or biochem, only because those classes are very sequential. You have to take bio 204 before 205 or 208, and it's just that can put you behind if you're not on track in terms of the sciences. So I've definitely had students that started in the sciences, took the semester, realized it wasn't for them, and then changed to whatever they wanted to do. And that's fine. It's a little harder to do the other way around, or if you don't start until your sophomore year taking those sequenced courses, that can be a little more challenging. So that might be the one area I'd say, if you're thinking about it, if you're undeclared, but you're strongly considering being in those, like I mentioned, biology, health science, applied human physiology, biochem, that particular area, I might recommend, switching to that. And then, if you don't decide you don't like it, then you can switch out to something else.
Dina, while I have you off mute, I'm going to ask you one of these other questions that's on
Sure.
here too. In terms of what's the timeline for choosing classes for the fall? How does that work? When will you start talking with an advisor, and just kind of walking us through that little bit of the process?
Sure. We know everybody wants to do it now, and we're getting there, like I mentioned several times, June 1st is when we start advising. That's when we start summer advising. So in the middle of the month of May, all of you, as long as you deposit at Chapman, you will receive an email from our office detailing what summer advising will look like. And then we have a whole program we run during the summer. We will have a variety of different options in terms of advising for incoming students. We will have an email campaign that we run actually with admissions to make sure everybody's informed about everything. Actual registration does not take place until the early part of July. So we want to make sure everybody's prepped and ready to go during the month of June to be ready to register in July. So if that gives you a little bit of a time frame, a timeline, like Marie mentioned, right now, we're actually working with all the current students to get them registered for the fall. And we actually don't even have any access to incoming student data just yet. So if you have any questions between now and June 1st, definitely recommend reaching out to your admissions counselor. Like Marie said, log into your admissions portal. You'll find their information, or just email admin@chapman.edu if you need to. But definitely reach out to them for any questions you have at this point.
Absolutely. The other reminder that popped into my head, Dina, as you were saying all of this, is that for those of you that are going through this process, please check your chapman.edu email through the summer. I have students every single year that don't realize that all of our other departments are only going to communicate them with their chapman.edu email, and then miss some different things, or maybe miss deadlines. Our housing office will send you things there, the billing office, academic advising. And so it's super important that you log in and make sure you're activated on your chapman.edu account. And then especially post May 1, that you're really checking that on a regular basis throughout the summer. And then eventually that will just be such a lifeline for you once you're a student here, that you're checking it so frequently. Another question from Samuel, can undeclared students participate in research? Jalen and Steele, I don't know if you have done this yourselves or if you have friends that have done this, but if you want to talk about that side of it.
Yeah, I actually am. Oh, do you want to go? Okay. I am a research assistant and I did technically start before I officially declared. So the answer is definitely yes. It's up to really the professor's discretion. It's really just if you have a professor that you really vibe with and they want to bring you onto their research, they can absolutely do that and you can get credit for it. It can be tricky because like where you apply the credit in terms of what course you actually apply it for. So my like research is under a communication course. So that can like differ if you're not sure where you want to apply it. So I'm not really sure exactly what to do there, but if you kind of like have a sense of what you want to go into, you can kind of declare that. So I kind of knew I was about to declare communication. And so I was able to, apply that research credit and get that as an elective for communication. So yeah, you can absolutely do it. I would just, talk to whichever professor it is that you want to do research with and that can help you out. Yeah, so yes.
I was even talking with a student the other day on just a panel that we were doing, and I think she ended up being either health science or bio is her major, but she was taking a class in, I think it was like computer science or in something totally different. And so her professor was doing undergraduate research, offering some opportunities for undergrad research. And she, then approached them with, would I be able to do this? I'm not in this major. And like, how does this work? And so her advisor actually ended up being like, yeah, like let's, you can hop onto some of these different projects and work on these things because this is an experience that you might get in that program from the relationship you've built with a professor that you might not get otherwise. And so it's definitely all about communicating with your faculty members as you're going through this. So be super transparent with them and ask them those questions. It'll be really important. All right, last question, Giovanna. You asked a question about, are there any exploration pieces that you can do before starting your official year on campus? So in the chat, I posted a link to the course catalog. That's a really great place to just click on things. I know it's not the most exciting part of the website and doesn't have all the like flair and videos and things like that that you might see on other pages, but it can be a really helpful resource for you to explore, click on different classes, see what's in that curriculum for different programs, and if it's something that really resonates with you. So that I would definitely encourage for all students at some point over the summer to take a look at that. That'll be really important. Dina, do you have any other advice of things students can do over the summer to kind of prep before the fall?
Sure. I mean, yeah, definitely catalog. I was going to say that too. You posted that there. I can tell you myself as a student who started college with one major and then switched to another, the catalog was the reason that helped me get there, if that makes sense, by actually being able to see all the classes I would be taking and if I was actually interested in them or not. So I think that's really important. Another page that might be helpful for students is our career and professional development. They've really upgraded. They have like a page for every college, if that makes sense, and major. So you can look at different resources. It might just kind of give you some sense of ideas that you might have, about what careers you might be interested in, what kind of, or what majors, and then what careers they might lend to. There's a lot of information on their website as well. You're obviously welcome to see our Academic Advising Center website. We do have information on applying for majors, exploring majors, things like that, links that can take you different places. So those are all things. We don't want to overwhelm you. There's going to already be a lot this summer. I'm just getting ready for classes, but that's a great way that you can kind of prepare yourself to start thinking about different things that you might be interested in. One thing too, and this is actually not, I realized we didn't talk a little bit more about majors in minutes, was one of our bigger events. Steele mentioned it a little bit earlier. We'll see what shape it will take in our fall. But typically, as Steele said, we basically get student representatives from every major on campus to be there on one night. We usually have it in a large room on campus, and students can go around to the different tables and ask their questions. Obviously, we're going to be looking at capacity limits and all kinds of things. Maybe we can do it outside. We'll see what happens. As last year, we did an online different panels for different colleges, and that was a really great experience too, and actually lended itself for different kinds of questions and that sort of thing. So I'm sure we will figure out a way to best do it safely and everything on campus, but definitely keep an eye out for majors and minutes in the fall once you're here as well.
Perfect. All right, well, we are just gonna wrap up. I saw one last question that's in there about the Chapman email address and logging into your portal. So if you are logged into your admit portal, that's one piece, but your chapman.edu email address is a different piece. Right after you got admitted, pretty quickly after that, you received an email that has a temporary password in there to log in and activate your chapman.edu email address. If you don't have that or you need it, you can always email your admission counselor and we'll always resend that to you. So super easy on our side to make that happen. All right, well, we are almost right at the hour mark and I want to be mindful of how much time everybody's spending on screens these days. So, and in between classes for Steele and Jalen and work and all of that too. So thank you to our panelists. I'm super appreciative to you as always for just providing this insight. And to those of you that are attending today, thanks for being here. I know you have a really busy schedule. If you have other questions as you're navigating these next steps, your admission counselor is always a great place to go. But the general admission email can also be helpful, and that's just admit@chapman.edu. I'll post that in the chat so you have it right now, and we'll go from there. But have a great rest of the day, everyone. I will see you at some point soon. Bye, everyone.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye, Stu. Bye, Dina. Bye, Marie.
Bye, everyone. I'll see you soon.
Bye.